that guitar, mama. Welcome to Celebrity Talk. We're here in Branson, Missouri at the beautiful Andy Williams Moon River Theater. And with us today is our guest, the last madman of rock and roll.
That's me,
Mr.
Paul Revere.
Paul Revere. Hi, Paul.
I'm the madman of rock and roll. I'm just as mad as ever. Everything's great.
We usually start out each segment asking a question about the celebrity's background. But I've seen several of your performances, and the first question I want to ask you is, man, where do you get all the energy?
Man, I just get excited every night thinking that I get to do all them old songs that I love and never get tired of doing. And I just love looking at the expressions on people's faces when you take them down memory lane. So it's an automatic. You just immediately, when you start doing something you enjoy doing, it's just fun to do. It's never not a joy to put on the silly suits and make people smile and take them into my time warp.
Yeah, and you feed off the audience response too.
Well, it don't matter if they decide they don't like me. I don't give up.
If they go to sleep, you keep going.
Oh, there's no sleep. There's no going to sleep in my show.
I know that.
No, I can shoot them. No, in our show. No, audiences don't bother me whether they're in a good mood or a bad mood, because before it's over with, they're going to be in a good mood. So if I get an audience that's real tired, that's been run all over town, and it's been a hot day and they're kind of exhausted or whatever, it just means I got to work harder. But I just got to make them forget that they're tired, and next thing you know, we're rocking.
Well, that you do, I'm sure. Getting back to our original format, we usually like to get a little background on, where you're from, where you were born and raised.
Where I was born, where I'm from, where I was raised.
Yeah, that's
okay, all of that stuff. Well, I was born 72 years ago in Harvard, Nebraska. And then during the Depression, my parents, they lost their farm, and so they had to move out west, and they ran out of gas in Idaho, and ended up doing field work in the for farmers there. They had labor camps, and if you ever saw the Grapes of Wrath, that was my family. Yeah. We traveled in a Model A, and everything you owned and all your kids were piled in the car, and you stopped and worked and did field work to make enough money to eat on, and basically lived in tents or anything that they provided you. And it was really the Depression was really, really something terrible. And I was a little kid and didn't really know how bad things really were until I looked back on it and see what Mom and Dad went through and what we all went through. It was tough. So anyway, we just headed out west and ended up in Idaho, because that's where the last tank of gas got us. And so we started doing field work there. I guess we were there in the summertime, and just was doing field work. The whole family would pitch in, and you would just do whatever farmers needed to be done. I guess these days it's all done by Mexicans, but in those days it was all done by out of work Americans that needed work. Yeah. So that's how it all started out, and I ended up going to school into little country schools, one-room schoolhouse, and so I was always kind of crazy and the class clown, and was always in trouble and making people nuts, and the teachers, they loved me, but I drove them nuts. And I saw humor in everything, and that's the way my father was. God bless him, because as bad as things were during the Depression, he knew how to make the family laugh, and he had a great sense of humor, and he loved to sing, and he loved to play the piano. And I think everything that I ended up being, I rubbed off my father, and he always just saw the glass was always half full, it wasn't half empty, and he was just a happy guy. And so that was it. I was raised went to little small schools, and started me in a little rock and roll band when I got in high school, just for the fun of it, and it just kept growing. And
what was the name of that band?
In the very beginning, the band was just just the guys. We were just a band. It was like there was no rock band, so it was just us guys. And then when we decided that we needed to have a name, then we thought, well, let's give us a name. Came up with the Downbeats, and we used that for, I don't know whether that was 6 months or a year. I don't even remember now. And but that was the original. Was the Downbeats, and then and eventually when we made our first record, then the record company thought I was stupid not to take advantage of my name. So he said, no, if your name's Paul Revere, you gotta take advantage of that, dude. So he came up with the idea of Paul Revere and the Raiders, and I went, okay, it's a done deal. And the record came out, and I went out and promoted it, and it was a piano instrumental. The first one was called Beatnik Sticks, which was a rock and roll boogie woogie version of Chopsticks. And then when we put out a few more records, and they were all instrumentals, piano instrumentals, and then it went on. And this story is so long, you don't have enough tape, believe me. Okay. I'm going to have to write a book. I just read Andy Williams' biography, and it inspired me. I thought, there's so much that happens when you go from here to there, in over 70 years, to cover it properly. I guess you need to just go on and on and on, and then just start ripping out pages and throwing away all the all the junk you don't really need to talk about, and just get to the meat. So I haven't been able to master just jumping from one spot in this career to another to make an interview last 5 minutes. So, your first mistake was you asked me how did I start out. Whew, that's a tough question. If you could pick it up 40 or 50 years, then it would have been easier.
So for those that don't know, that's your real name, Paul Revere.
Paul Revere, that's my name,
and that's your real hair.
Yeah, this is my real hair. Yeah, that's my real hair. Yeah, there's a.
When you started the group Paul Revere and the Raiders, did you start wearing the uniforms immediately, or when did that come about?
Pretty close to the early years, because it just kind of went along with the name, and the band was very crazy, and my hero was Spike Jones and the City Slickers, which was a crazy bunch of people, and I love the Keystone Cops, and I love the Three Stooges, and so as far as I was concerned, we were a combination of all of those things, and also played rock and roll music. If Spike Jones and the City Slickers had been a rock band, I think that would have been us. Right on from the beginning. We got real lucky because Dick Clark loved us. He put us on a television series, and the TV show was on 5 days a week, and we were just constant stuff in the teen magazines was constantly being printed about the group. So anybody that was interested in the group at all really knew everything about the group, because nothing was a secret. I mean, everything in all those magazines was from what you ate that morning to what color shoes you wear to, it was just over the top stupid. But
is that
but
people,
young kids, young girls, I guess, they enjoy knowing every little thing about their favorite bands.
Is that when you were doing the Where the Action Is with Dick Clark? Or?
Yeah, Where the Action Is. That was 1965 and 66 and part of 67. Close to 5 years we were on being featured on shows that were produced by Dick Clark that the group was starring on, plus all the other shows that all the American Bandstand shows we did, because he had, he was on all the time, so he was constantly bringing us on as a special guest. And because we were on CBS Records, they were always putting us on CBS shows, and because we were on ABC television, ABC was always putting us on their variety shows. So there was no shortage of appearances for the group during that era, from like about 1964 or 5 all the way through to the early 70s. It was.
You recorded Louie Louie, but everybody remembers as Louie Louie by the Kingsmen. You actually recorded it before they did. Right?
That's exactly right, and I wish they were here right now, because we would have a fine discussion on that. But I absolutely do know that we were doing Louie Louie probably for a year before we even recorded it. And we went in and recorded it in a studio in Portland, Oregon. And according to the guy that owns the studio, he said they came in a week later and recorded it. And so wasn't even aware of it, and they weren't aware that we did it. But our version came out first. It was on Columbia Records, and it was the first rock. We were the first rock group really to sign with Columbia Records, and this was our first rock and roll record. And it got incredible airplay up in the Northwest because that's where we were from, and that's where all the dance is. And so our Louie went to number one, like that. And then it was about, I don't know, maybe a month or 2 months later, or something like that, that the Kingsmen's version started getting airplay back east. And then it really took off when a rumor got out that the lyrics were dirty, which they weren't, but because somebody couldn't understand what the kid was saying, they made up their own version, and so then that made it even more popular because it was taboo. Yeah. So anyway, so their version really took off in the East, and ours was taken off pretty good in the West. But Columbia Records, because we were their first rock group, they just didn't know how to promote the song. And they blew it, but it doesn't really matter in the big picture because it was just right shortly after that we were on the added to the Dick Clark family, and from that point on, we had just a string of hit records. So
you've got some very talented people working with you too, and I know a few of them have been with you quite some time.
My guys?
Yeah, your guys.
Oh, yeah. You'd have to shoot them to get rid of them, and even that doesn't work. They heal and they come back. Yeah. The guy's been with me a long time, yeah. Doug, the lead guitar player, has been with me almost 38 years, and the bass player, Ron Foose, been with me almost the same. And then Danny, my keyboard player, has been with me like over 30 years. And then I got a couple of new kids in the band. Got a drummer that's he's still only not even a year old.
Yeah, Tommy Sheckle. I saw him when he was playing with the Buckingham.
Yeah.
How'd you steal him away?
I just got lucky.
Yeah.
I just got lucky. And then Darren, who I've known for umpteen years, who was filling in every once in a while when Darren Medley had to take a break. So Darren Dowler would come in, and then finally Darren Medley, who was my lead singer, that's Bill Medley's son, was my lead singer for a few years. He just got overwhelmed by the business that he owns back in California. So he went back there to raise his family and take care of his business, and turned his little tight pants and his three-cornered hat over to Darren Dowler.
A couple of them have been with you long enough to probably remember. I mean, I'm sure they remember. A couple have been with you long enough to be with you when you played at something that's been referred to as nude stock. What was that all about?
Nude stock. Where are you getting this information? Who's filling you in?
We have sources.
Okay. Yeah, well, nude stock. Yeah, no, that was an interesting thing. It was an annual event, I guess, that the national nudist colonies of America would get together in one particular location, and they would have these monster nudist colony meets. And so my agent called me one time. He says, "Hey," he says, "you ain't gonna believe this. We got an offer for you guys to play nude stock." I said, "What's nude stock?" He says, "Well, it's like Woodstock, but with no clothes." Nude stock. And I said, "Come on." And he said, "No." I said, "Well, okay, who else is doing it?" Well, boy, you got me so off guard on this thing. Anyway, there's about 4 acts that were all big stars that were invited to play this event. But yeah, it was an interesting thing to do, and I didn't tell my band, what it was. And so when we showed up there,
sprung it on them as a surprise.
Oh yeah. And when we stepped out on stage and they saw 10,000 naked people out there. It's like, I mean, that was
that's gonna be a sight to behold.
that was amazing. But yeah, Marshall Tucker. There's Marshall Tucker, the country guy. And let me see, who else? I'm trying to remember who the other acts. I think the Buckinghams. I think the Buckinghams was on that one as too. I can't be for certain.
But you guys performed fully clothed, right?
Everybody, we all got to keep our clothes on.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that was part of the deal. No,
okay.
Got to keep the clothes on. I mean, the whole audience was trying to get you to take them off.
Right. Yeah.
But
performing down here in Branson, I know you were at the American Bandstand Theater for a while. Now you're at the Andy Williams Moon River Theater. You're also doing oldies cruises. You have a cruise coming up early next year?
Yeah. Oh, we do. Yeah, every year for about 25, 26 years, we do at least one cruise a year in the wintertime, sometimes two, sometimes three.
Wow, yeah.
But we were called the king of the cruises for a long time because we were doing so many of them. But yeah, we played bandstand here for 2 years. And then Andy Williams invited Bill Medley and myself to come over here. So we played here last year. And then Bill moved up the street to the Starlight Theater, so he's performing up there with his daughter. And so we're performing here at Andy's Theater. So this is our 4th year in Branson. But
well, if people want to find out where you're going to be, you have a website, right?
That's it, PaulRevereandTheRaiders.com. PaulRevereandTheRaiders.com as the official Paul Revere and the Raiders website. And yeah, you can check the tour schedule, and it'll show where we're performing in the up and coming months, and then check back regularly because new dates constantly are added.
You're also responsible for the Ride to the Wall Foundation, and can you tell us a little bit how that all came about and got started?
Yeah, you ask those easy questions, don't you? Okay. Well, I'll try to make it simple. It's just we just felt like the Vietnam vets had never gotten an official welcome home, so we always made sure that we made a point of it and welcomed them home at all of our shows. We decided to do something a little different to raise money for veterans that need help. And it started out, we was thinking about the Vietnam vets, and then it just kind of exploded to all veterans that might need some help. CDs, and there's a DVD is coming my direction.
There's a DVD.
The DVD is called Operation Thanksgiving. There you go. And this is a DVD that we filmed for the troops that was going off to Iraq. It was on Thanksgiving. Yeah, and it was on Thanksgiving. And so we filmed that, and it turned out really good. It won some awards. And then
That's a terrific DVD, and we have two.
And then we got CDs, the Ride to the Wall Volume 1, and then a Ride to the Wall Volume 2. Yes. And the Volume 2 was when I hit up some of my friends to help record on. So we did the music, and it's my band playing, but we invited people like Gary Puckett and Nancy Sinatra and the Turtles and Billy Ray Cyrus. The years that we started it, we would ride our motorcycles from the West Coast to the East Coast, and we end up at the Lincoln Memorial, actually at the Vietnam Memorial, and then we would perform in front of the Lincoln Memorial, a free concert for all the people that ate bugs and rode their bikes all the way across the country, and that happens every Memorial Day weekend.
You still do that?
And well, since we've come to Branson, I've been chained at the ankle to the theater here, and I've never been able to get away for 4 years now. I haven't been able to get to the wall to join all the gang out there for the Ride to the Wall. But I think next year I'm going to be able to do it. So
I want to thank you for your time, and on behalf of Vietnam veterans and veterans everywhere, excuse me.
Yes.
I want to thank you for all the great work you've done, for them. It's a pleasure and an honor to talk to you.
Well, thank you, and like I always say, welcome home, troops, and come down to Branson, see our show. We promise to give you an energetic, fun trip into my time warp.
Right. And if you want to check out the schedule or anything else about Paul Revere, check out his website, www.paulrevere.com.
Paul Revere
and the Raiders.com, excuse me. And the website for the Ride to the Wall Foundation, which is ridetothewallfoundation.org.
Yeah. And you can get to it by going to our regular Paul Revere and the Raiders
There's
website.
a link from your site to that also.
Yep.
So, and it's a great organization, and it benefits the all veterans. So go on there and get something.
Okay.
Thank you again.
But when you wake up in the morning, the world still gets you uptight. Well, there's nothing that you ain't tried.